Yu-Gi-Oh! Has seen its fair share of issues in the past couple of years. Back-to-back Tier 0 formats, mediocre products, poorly run events, an increasingly complex gameplay made worse by an increasingly expensive secondary market. Sure, the game is hitting record numbers in attendance for in-person tournaments, and Master Duel seems to be maintaining a steady flow of income for Konami. Nonetheless, you can't deny that there's been a growing proportion of people dissatisfied with the way things are, and it's sad to hear. I don't know about you all, but I poured years into this hobby. I only want what's best for it. That's why I wanted to flip the discussion for today's video, to step back and appreciate the beauty of Yu-Gi-Oh! With all this talk about how the game could be better, I wanted to take a look back at all the things that are already great about it. Because if you mull over the matter for a second, there's no game like Yu-Gi-Oh! And I feel like this thought isn't being capitalized on enough. This isn't going to be some 4-hour, bottom of the iceberg deep dive into the franchise's full development. I'm also not trying to ignore or undermine the game's flaws with this approach. I just want to give you all an honest, personal, heart-to-heart about a passion I won't shut up about. One of the things that I think makes Yu-Gi-Oh! So special is its connection to its anime. You're probably thinking, well, Toon World, Pokemon TCG has an anime, so does Digimon, Dragon Ball, One Piece, hello? And you're not wrong. But Yu-Gi-Oh!'s anime presents a unique angle that the other games, in my humble opinion, don't have. And that is the fact that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime directly engages you with the game and thus immediately reinforces your bond with it. To put it simply, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. Since Duel Monsters, each series has been focused on fervently promoting the physical medium. It's possible this was true before the fact with the original 1996 series, but I'm not here to discern the specifics. At the very least, post-1998, this thought holds. Anyhow, the plot itself advances through the mechanics of the game. Anytime a central conflict arises, instead of throwing hands, or gunning each other down in the streets, characters whip out duel discs to duel. We have products that support this thought, from protagonist-inspired structure decks, to duelist packs set on reprinting anime-associated cards, to legacy support meant to bring certain archetypes up to par with the modern competition. These characters are also tackling situations that you yourself might be presented in a duel. They're pulling off these incredible moments that have the potential to manifest themselves in person at your locals or online in Master Duel. Kaiba summoning a god out of nowhere?
It's no monster. It's a god!
Check. Yusei making Majestic Star Dragon to stop the Dark Signers? Check. Yusaku getting Extra Link by Revolver? Also check. Why does this matter? Well, how many times have you picked up a deck or been inspired to duel because of what you saw in the anime, right? When 5D's Leo performed his funny Morphtronic Magnet lock that prevented Yusei from attacking with his monsters, I was like, damn, I kinda wanna do that. And then I built Morphtronic's Feet Brilliant Fusion, rest in peace by the way, and Omega Hand Loop my opponents instead. When Arc Beast Reishi dumpstered Yu-Gi-Oh! With Kali Yuga, I was like, that boss monster is broken. I need to make it myself. And then I found myself going X5 with DDD at the San Diego Regionals in 2019. We don't talk about that. When Link Vrain's Revolver battled the Wind Ignis and summoned Borlo's Savage for the first time? Okay, I will admit, animation was pretty sick. I wasn't convinced enough to pick up the whole Rocket archetype. I'm not a big Dragon fan, I'm sorry. But Savage did find use for me in other ways. Essentially, every time I saw something cool on screen, I could immediately translate it to the physical card game. That was such a huge motivator for me to think about and play Yu-Gi-Oh! As it probably was for many of you. The anime thoroughly engrosses you in the fantasy of being a duelist, and the latter feels so much more plausible because you can relive parts of the former in real time. Sure, you can play with your beloved Charizard in Pokemon or lead the GOAT Luffy into a match of One Piece. But having played both of these games in person and online, I don't always get to achieve those same highs I got when, say, watching Charizard acknowledge Ash for the first time, or Luffy beating the shit out of Crocodile over New World Symphony. It's because I can't quite reenact those moments as closely as I would, for example, Yuto summoning Dark Rebellion XYZ for the first time in Arc V. Mastering a Charizard deck for the first time might make me tear up a bit inside. If I get paired against a Crocodile player on ladder, I might hear the music ringing in my ears, but it's not quite the same. The Pokemon mainline games, in my opinion, are a better representation of becoming a trainer, which makes sense given the anime came out to promote them first and foremost. And a ton of One Piece decks do embody their respective characters' powers in the show, yet they're not a one-to-one like they are in Yu-Gi-Oh! And the game doesn't always encapsulate the adventurous spirit of being a pirate. That last bit is undeniably, unequivocally a subjective take. I'm not saying that my argument is 100% sound. I've been to my fair share of Pokemon One Piece TCG events. The people I've talked to, there are some who will definitely disagree with me on those remarks. They do actually find that same value I alluded to when talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! In piloting their favorite pocket monster or pirate captain in a match. If you want to roast me in the comments, you're free to. Yet, there are others who sort of understand the itch I'm describing. Just having a show you can intimately resonate with in real life brings the fantasy of becoming a fearsome duelist closer to reality. Yu-Gi-Oh! Does it well. It is a shame that, at least of this video being released, we haven't had a main series anime announced since Reigns ended in 2019. Yeah, Rush Duels is undoubtedly a sick format, and the show is kinda nice for indoctrinating some kids at a young age, but I'd kill to have another show to follow as I play modern Yu-Gi-Oh! At minimum, I think Animation Chronicles offers some hope. Being able to, see your favorite archetypes realized virtually is kind of a nice inversion of what's already passed. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, what good is an anime if the design of the game is promoting isn't fun, right? Well, fortunately for most of us, Yu-Gi-Oh! Does meet this criteria, and it's because of its limitless resource system. Take a game like Hearthstone, Legends of Runeterra, or Shadowverse. They have mana systems, right? Even if you haven't played any of these three, you might be familiar with the concept from other alternatives. You start out with 1 or 2 mana, and as turns progress, you slowly obtain more. This makes it so that certain cards are staggered over time. The intensity of the game ramps as things progress. Your early turns let you set up your core pieces, your core units, and then your later turns let you capitalize upon the win con that early foundation establishes. Of course, bar you're playing some aggro stratagem like Noxus, Face Hunter, or Swordcraft. This is a simplification, I'm aware. Having played both of these CCGs, there's a ton more nuance. There are also strategies to accelerate the rules. I'm just trying to keep things concise. With Yu-Gi-Oh! However, nah, none of that. Konami was like, no mana, no lands, no energy, nothing of the sort. The only resource is your imagination. Your hand is a resource, your graveyard, your banish zone, your mom's credit card, everything is a resource for you to use. This enables for some of the most deranged combos possible that you'd really never be able to achieve in any other card games. Oh, you want to kill your opponent on your first turn before they even get a chance to play? Yep, got you covered. You want to set up a board chock full of negates and make your opponent wish they had gotten killed on the first turn? Yep, we got those too. Want to slowly drain your opponent of their resources until they're left completely at your will? A bit sadistic, but we do also have that option. There's just so many things you can accomplish in the game due to its lack of a limiting resource. You can start bolting straight out of the gate, and as long as your cards don't have a restraining order in the fine text, the possibilities are near endless. This isn't to say that the other card games don't have some crazy interactions. Gonna bring up Pokemon and One Piece again because they're the games I have the most experience with. Pokemon's recent Lost Box deck is really entertaining to watch at high levels. See, with Pokemon, you usually have one primary attacker that you use to KO your opponent's Pokemon. However, the Lost Box deck does something different. Instead of playing one attacker, they play a variety of attackers strong against very specific matchups so that when that matchup does end up appearing, they can pivot to the corresponding Pokemon. The deck also resembles Dark World in how much it cycles through your deck. That does sound ironic, I know, the game does have a draw 7, but this deck genuinely hits the bottom of the barrel at times. One Piece's Sakazuki, rest in peace by the way, it's banned now, was an incredibly challenging tempo deck that rewarded you for knowing how to deal with your opponent's threats while keeping track of your own. You'd have to combo several cards that reduce the mana cost of a card before finally dropping another that kills a certain maximum mana. Do this too early or incorrectly, and you can be severely punished. But neither of these cases are up to par with Yu-Gi-Oh! You can string a ton of unrelated cards from different eras of the game into one seemingly fluid combo. Sure, that combo might have the same outcome as the next deck, but it reaches that outcome in a unique manner. Sometimes all by activating just one simple card. For my beloved Punk deck, for example, this wee little spell card you're seeing on screen with 2 lines of text turns into 8 ways to invalidate your opponent. 8, when your opponent only has like 6 cards in hand during their turn, like, huh? If I could describe this phenomenon with one word, it would be whack. Now, still in the game design section, set rotation is obviously a partner to Yu-Gi-Oh's resource system in enabling everything I said thus far. You could be playing your newly printed, pristine 2024 anime waifu deck, yet your strategy could inadvertently hinge on some dusty relic printed all the way back in 2007. Or you could still be coping with some old 2014 abomination, yet have a second chance at life given a newly printed, unrelated but synergistic card. It's just incredible. You're not forced to think about what you're going to lose as the next format encroaches upon you, bar the occasional ban list of course to curb certain offenders of the Geneva Conventions. You can instead focus on what you're going to receive in the next set. This is a good segue into the variety of decks Yu-Gi-Oh offers versus other card games. I've already made 2 videos rambling about the specifics, so I won't go on a whole spiel again here, but we have to address how diverse Yu-Gi-Oh is in general, at the very least. The fact you can play with any card created since the game's conception means you can also play with any deck created since the game's conception, and naturally, that's a lot of decks. I hinted at 2 already, but think about a deck like Branded. It became exceptional after the release of Branded Fusion in its respective 2022 structure deck. If we had set rotation, you would probably have lost that spell around now. Since we don't, the deck is allowed to exist in the present day, and allowed to make you regret spending money on local entry by airdropping you a gimmick puppet.
Wow. The crowd jeers at the 2 gimmick puppet nightmares.
Yubel was printed in 2008, 16 years ago by the way, but is now seeing a ton of play because of its fan service arc. In a game like Pokemon or Hearthstone, though you might have a variety of strategies at your disposal, some are going to be inherently weaker than others. They simply might lack the tools they need because they're no longer in rotation. Meanwhile, other decks are strong just because they so happen to have every option. I remember playing Pokemon a little around Sword and Shield format. The deck Centiskorch VMAX was incredibly strong because it had a card called Welder, a trainer card that essentially enabled you to bypass the attach 1 energy per turn clause of the game by attaching cards from your hand to any Pokemon you have. Then that trainer card rotated out and the deck fell out of favor. Meanwhile, a deck like Dialga V-Star was awful to pilot for a while because it needed a ton of energy to hit big numbers, yet it lacked a good engine to accelerate that energy. Out of nowhere, we finally get the missing puzzle piece in the main set Temporal Forces, and that deck is now decently low tier. I get that I sound like I'm complaining about rotation, I am a rogue noob after all, though I acknowledge there are definitely benefits to the mechanic. It can help keep the game fresh, it can help promote new products, or even mitigate unwanted threats. My point is that the dynamic that rotation induces is just inherently different from Yu-Gi-Oh! The numerous untethered options Yu-Gi-Oh! Offers enables so many different types of people to come into the game. Like, the chances you find the right deck for yourself are so high given how many archetypes there are with unique playstyles. And what's even better is that you can achieve wins with all of them. Maybe I'm blinded by the rogue grind set here, but the sheer scope of the game enables some really odd scenarios that are just what some decks need to pull ahead. Really weird example here, but take Cloudians. This deck is hot trash, like bags of rotting food in the summer sun. But there was a time where you could extra link with them. The chances of opening the right cards to do so was low, but it wasn't impossible. And sure, you might argue this combo doesn't embody the identity of Cloudians, that's a whole different topic I'm not going to get into for this video, yet you are still schooling your opponents with a bunch of evaporated moisture. Let me use a personal example actually, Okshamas. I have a friend who I met through my college's Yu-Gi-Oh club, right? First time I ever duel him, he's on Okshamas. And I'm like, what are these ugly dudes gonna do? Well, being unprepared as I was, my friend summons Oshama Blue, goes to battle phase, and rams into my big attacker. Enter main phase 2, skip 5 minutes later, and suddenly he has like 2 ABC Dragon Busters on field with a 4 Mat Apo and the Oshama equivalent of Tri-Brigade Revolt set. I couldn't even be mad, like, I was just impressed. This is generally the type of stuff only Yu-Gi-Oh! Can procure. You can play whatever deck you want, and when the stars perfectly align, you can win with them in an instant. Okay. You've gotten this far in the video, you're tired of Mr. Toon World rambling on for as much as he has, right? Well, I need to quickly add that Yu-Gi-Oh's uniqueness can also be its downfall. Earlier, I mentioned how you could try out multiple playstyles as a result of Yu-Gi-Oh's flexibility and range, right? But not all playstyles are going to be equally quote-unquote fair. The 3 I mentioned earlier of first turn killing your opponent, of creating a million negates, or playing stun are undoubtedly too many toxic for the game. Furthermore, though there are too many decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And you can steal wins with some of these too many decks, certain archetypes are always going to be inherently stronger than others. There's always going to be some sort of hierarchy with the most obscenely designed and broken threats at the top, while the weird, unfinished, and or outdated alternatives struggle for scraps. This might be a cop-out response, but I feel like these are going to be inevitable with the way the game is designed. It's hard to not have issues like these pop up given those other elements we went into depth about already. Like, imagine trying to balance 25 years worth of cards. I know I can't. Though there are ways to mitigate them nonetheless. I've joked about it already, but the ban list is a solid way to address major offenders of a given format. It's not perfect. I do think that losing a card that was beneficial to, say, a lot of rogue decks, all because one meta deck abused it, kinda sucks. Nonetheless, it is sort of a necessary evil in my eyes. Also, Konami has been pretty consistent with giving older deck support they need to be above borderline playable. Legacy support, as we discussed, is one of the benefits of the lack of rotation. Finally, though this last point is a bit harder to accomplish since Yu-Gi-Oh is inadvertently a business, the company could also try to print less cards that power creep what came before. This said, I'm grateful for all of it. Yu-Gi-Oh has plenty of beautiful aspects, but it's still flawed. It's not a perfect game, but it's the perfect game because of that, if you get what I'm saying. You can do all these crazy complex things, but there's room for the franchise to grow and evolve rather than being something stagnant and unmoving. I just hope that Konami does continue to lead this game down the right path amidst all those complaints listed at the start of the video. I want to be able to play this game for as long as I can to keep this passion afloat given how much it's kept me afloat in exchange, because there will never be another Yu-Gi-Oh! These conclusion sections I concoct tend to get a bit muddy because I always ramble longer than I need to, so I'll keep things short today. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Your viewership helps grow the channel a ton, and I love to see how many people enjoy my content. If you genuinely adored what you saw, make sure to drop a like, and if you're not subscribed, feel free to. I've also got a Patreon too if you want to support me, though completely understand if you can't. At the very least, I'll happily entertain your thoughts in the comments section below, should you choose to leave one. Otherwise, this is Toon World wishing you a good night.